No, we're going to take over Washington, D.C. We're going to federalize. We're going to have very powerful crime, and you're going to be proud of it again.
Yes, he's going to bring very powerful crime to Washington, D.C. That was from, again, this bogus town hall. It was really an in-kind contribution by Fox for Donald Trump. They devoted 2 days to this stuff, so this is part 2, and here Donald Trump once again clarifies, if it needed clarification, that he would not do anything if NATO was being destroyed. He would just let it happen. Here, play this clip.
So does this mean you're not going to defend NATO countries if they haven't paid their 2 point whatever percent?
Yeah, sort of. It does. We have 28 countries. We have 28.
You know, watching the kind of MAGA mush brain in the crowd applaud that as the leader of the modern day Republican Party is running on an actual presidential platform of the destruction of NATO just shows the condition of our country because of what Donald Trump and Fox have done to the Republican Party. It is despicable. Here, Donald Trump just tries to scare the crowd, threaten the audience, scare people at home, you know, and here he claims that whether he's revealing classified information here or just making up a story, that there is a nuclear bomb that he is aware of, that he says the blast radius would go from New York to South Carolina. Play the clip.
I mean, if you don't mind me asking, because I know this is a very faith-filled audience here, and I know there are people across the globe pray for you and your safety. They're worried about your safety.
No, they are.
And they want. Do you feel that? Do you feel the power of that?
I do, but can I be honest? I worry about their safety, too. These people, everybody in this room is in great danger right now. We have a nuclear weapon that if you hit New York, South Carolina is going to be gone, too. I worry about their safety. I think it's the reason I'm doing this.
And again, the goal here of this is to terrorize the audience, to make people in a constant state of fear. And then he comes in and goes, I alone can fix it, me and my accordion hands right here. Here he is again attacking NATO from this part 2 of this bogus town hall. Play the clip.
Well, maybe.
But do you think Article 5 should be amended as it's currently?
I think a country should have to pay. If you don't pay, why should we? Look, we have a bigger purpose than that, but they will pay.
Then the so-called town hall basically became Laura Ingraham just telling Donald Trump, oh, you know how funny you are? You're so funny. You're a really funny man. I mean, what the hell are we even watching? Here, watch Laura Ingraham do that. Play this clip.
Extremely funny. I mean, you have a fantastic sense of humor. People who, don't know you personally sometimes don't see that because you're facing very serious challenges and a very serious election. How might you showcase your sense of humor during this campaign for, those people who might not be all that into politics?
I don't think I want to be a comedian with respect.
And then Laura Ingraham goes, but we really need Melania out there. People want to see Melania. And again, this isn't like, you're not even asking him questions anymore. And you can see how kind of terrified Donald Trump is. You look at his face as Laura Ingraham saying, we really want Melania out there. I mean, Melania, despite paying her hairdresser and makeup artist nearly $500,000, somewhere around that range, she hasn't done any events at all, hasn't showed up with Trump at all, but nonetheless grifts off the donors. Watch Trump when Laura Ingraham asks him about this. Play this clip.
I hear a lot, this question I'm asked a lot, that Jill Biden is everywhere. She's campaigning everywhere for Joe Biden, and she did in 2020. Will we see more of your secret weapon?
Yeah.
For those of us who know your wife, Melania, will we see more of her this time around? Given her ability to speak so many languages, he was so wonderful with children and everyone. And I think a lot of people here want to see more of her.
They love her, I'll tell you.
Will we?
So, and you know her. She's a very brilliant person. She speaks many languages, the whole thing.
Yeah, and then Laura Ingraham goes, do you pray? Do you pray? The religious folks in this audience want to know, do you pray?
Do you pray regularly?
I pray. I pray.
I mean, again, it's just so utterly pathetic. Here, watch what Trump says. Here, play this clip.
We have no idea who they are, but they are terrorists. We're going to have mass.
Yeah, you see there he goes, we have no idea who the immigrants are. He goes, but they are terrorists. You need to know that. The immigrants are terrorists. What in the world are you even talking about right there? And by the way, this follows, for example, part one where Donald Trump, of this so-called town hall, where Trump said that the civil fraud judgment against him is that it's a form of Navalny, he says. He tries to compare himself with Alexei Navalny, who was murdered by Vladimir Putin. Play this clip.
President, the crowd's going crazy here, but during this campaign, a huge amount of your time has been spent in court, in the courtroom in New York and so forth. Now, in this New York civil fraud case, this Judge Arthur Engoron ruled against you for almost $500 million plus interest that runs every day. When I first read this, like $87,000 a day. How will you put up that kind of money? Because you have a bond to put up. Even if you appeal, you got to put up escrow money. That's it's a lot of dough.
It is a form of Navalny. It is a form of communism or fascism. The guy's a nut job. I've known this for a long time, and I've said it openly.
Here, Donald Trump just becomes an outright fanboy of Russia and calls them, they're a war machine. Here, play this clip.
You're really up against a war machine in Russia. Russia, what they do? They defeated Hitler. They defeated Napoleon. You know, they're a war machine.
In this clip, Donald Trump talks about, he says that we have a lot of cash, but these judges can't take my cash. Yeah, they can. Play the clip.
Question, which I thought about a lot last night because it's such a huge amount of money. You have to decide whether you're going to put up that bond and escrow to appeal. Are you going to do that? And where are you going to get the money?
I'll tell you what we're going to do. Number one, well, I have a lot of cash, but that doesn't mean he can take it. I mean, you know what he did? I think he looked at my cash and he said, well, we'll take all of his cash. This is all coming out of the White House. This is all, everything that you see, whether it's that one or the DA. You know, in the DA's office, in Bragg's office, he has his top people from the DOJ working in the district attorney's office in New York. Nobody knows that. Everything is coming out. This is all election interference. They're trying to damage me so they can win another election.
Here, Donald Trump just admits to stealing national defense information, classified information. Basically, he stipulates to one of the crimes right here. Play this clip.
Why didn't you just hand them over when they were requested, though? I mean, they requested them. You could have just handed them over. It probably saved yourself a lot of trouble.
First of all, I didn't have to hand them over. But second of all, I would have done that. We were talking, and then all of a sudden they raided Mar-a-Lago. Do you remember? They said, could you put an extra lock on the door? We showed them where they were. We showed them. Unlike being under a Corvette in a little garage with the door open all the time, we had these things locked. We were surrounded all the time by many Secret Service agents. We had Secret Service all over Mar-a-Lago. You couldn't take anything out. But what happened, and when you take a look, Biden didn't have the Presidential Records Act.
Here's Donald Trump spreading unhinged election denialism, conspiracy theories on Fox. Play the clip.
If I were losing in the polls, they wouldn't even be talking about me, and I wouldn't have had any legal fees.
If you had retired from politics, would all these cases...
If I were out, I think, although they hate me so much, I think if I got out, they'd still, let's pursue this guy. We can't stand this guy. Look, I won an election that wasn't supposed to be winnable. I then did much better the second time. I won't get into it, but I did because of Fox. But I won.
And can we compare that for a moment, though, to President Biden? Let's talk about the speech President Biden gave on Wednesday, where he gives detail and he explains a coherent policy. Play this clip.
Early in my term, I announced a major plan to provide millions of working families with debt relief for their college student debt. Tens of millions of people in debt were literally about to be canceled, their debts. But my MAGA Republican friends in the Congress, elected officials and special interests stepped in and sued us. And the Supreme Court blocked it. They blocked it. But that didn't stop me. I announced we were going to pursue alternative paths for student debt relief for as many borrowers as possible. And that's the effort that's been underway the last 2 years. I fixed what's called the SAVE plan. It existed, but I fixed it to make it the most affordable repayment plan ever. Before I took office, student borrowers had to pay 10% of their discretionary income on a monthly basis. If they made less than, if they didn't have enough to do that, they were able to not have to pay that month, but their interest continued. A lot of people don't have the means to do that, though. Under my SAVE plan, we're cutting in half to 5% the undergraduate borrowers, what undergraduate borrowers have to pay after their living expenses are accounted for. That means no one with an undergraduate loan, whether it's a community college or a four-year college, will have to pay more than 5% of their discretionary income to repay those loans starting in July. And that's income after you pay for necessities like food and housing. Already 7.5 million Americans have enrolled in this so-called SAVE plan. And there's more than 4 million of those borrowers had their monthly payments drop to zero if they were living paycheck to paycheck below a certain level. This plan is the most generous repayment program ever, and today we're doing it even faster and quicker than ever before. I'm proud to announce our SAVE plan. We are immediately canceling the debt loans for over 150,000 borrowers, nearly 6 months ahead of schedule. Starting today, we're canceling student debt for borrowers who are enrolled in the SAVE plan and have been paying student loans for as little as 10 years. If they borrow less than $12,000, it's forgiven.
And here's President Biden once again from this speech expressing like a coherent policy. Play this clip.
Because while a college degree is still a ticket to a better life, that ticket is too expensive. And too many Americans are still saddled with unsustainable debt in exchange for a college degree. So there's a student loan program to be able to afford a college degree, but a lot of people didn't take advantage of it, and I wanted to make sure they did. The ability to repay, though, has become so burdensome. A lot of people can't even repay, and they try. They don't miss payments. They work like the devil every month to pay their bills. But even they pay their loans, their debt increases, doesn't diminish because of interest rates. And I thought I'd make a lot more sense to relieve student debt for families and it would grow our economy. Well, there were existing programs in the law to fix and adjust the programs. We had to change them to make people make them available for people, make people eligible. And that's what I've done when the Supreme Court said I couldn't go ahead and relieve all the debt. It helps everyone, not just the people whose debt is relieved, but when people in student debt relieved, they buy homes, they start businesses, they contribute, they engage in the community in ways they weren't able to before. It actually grows the economy. It grows the economy.
By the way, you had Laura Trump talk about how, Donald Trump wants Laura Trump, his daughter-in-law, to run the RNC. And as reported by Kate Sullivan, Laura Trump said today that she thinks paying Trump's legal bills is a big interest to Republican voters. I asked if she thought the RNC should be paying those legal bills. Quote, "I don't really know what the statutes are that guide that because I'm not officially there yet."
You think paying for President Trump's legal bills is something that is of interest to Republican voters?
Absolutely. That's why you've seen a GoFundMe get started. That's why people are furious right now and they see the attacks against him. They feel like it's an attack not just on Donald Trump, but on this country.
So Laura Trump considering using, we all knew that's one of the reasons that he wants her to control the RNC, to try to divert that money to cover his legal bills. And while you have all of this going on, by the way, I just look at this Politico headline, and the headline over here is poll. Nearly 70% of voters say Biden is too old to serve again, which is, as Josh Marshall points out, it's a wild headline for an article about a poll that actually shows President Biden beating Donald Trump by 4 points. So where there is a poll reflecting that Biden's up, the media still manages to give it a negative connotation, or as Tom Bonnier, a friend of the MeidasTouch network, says, despite saying Biden is too old to serve again, voters still prefer Biden over Trump. And you know what? I'm sick and tired of this ageism. It's really despicable stuff. At the end of the day, the question for me, the test for me, is President Biden doing the job that he's supposed to do? Whether he was 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, or 85. Is he doing the job that he was brought there to do? And the answer is yes. Is he surrounding himself with a team of top people who are doing as well the vision that he set out to do? The answer is yes. Is President Biden out there talking about policy? Is President Biden out there actually, when the Democrats controlled both the House and the Senate, passing major pieces of historic legislation like the Infrastructure Act, the PACT Act, the CHIPS Act, Inflation Reduction Act? These are real major things. Meanwhile, you've got Donald Trump talking about attacking NATO as part of his platform. What? I mean, Donald Trump's basically the same age as Biden. And when I watch the speeches of President Biden and I watch the speeches of Donald Trump, in President Biden, I hear someone who is coherently expressing American policy consistent with our values. And when I see Donald Trump speak, I mean, he does this with his accordion hands. He doesn't look tough. He doesn't look strong. He looks like a weak, unhinged loser who can barely put together a freaking sentence. And when he manages to mumble words together and even form words, which he's not even really doing, he's spewing Putin talking points. Meanwhile, his buddies, MAGA Mike Johnson and James Comer and Jim Jordan, are just straight up laundering Putin propaganda, CCP propaganda. They're relying on Russian spies and spies from the CCP to attack President Biden. I mean, folks, NATO is critical to our national safety. Supporting Ukraine is critical to our safety here. Supporting our allies is critical. I mean, let's just deal with the facts right here. And I get it. Look, the Times is going to write their thing. They're all going to write their thing. But that's why we'll come together. We'll keep growing this platform together. And we'll keep sharing and showing these videos together, all right? Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million subs together. Thanks for watching.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.